In Georgia, Athens, the Bulldogs are taking on the Auburn Tigers. They're starting out at 24-point favorites at the time we're filming this, coming off of a loss to Alabama. I mentioned it earlier in the episode, but they haven't lost 2 back-to-back regular season games since Kirby's first season there in 2016. I don't know if this will be the day to do it against an Auburn team who is 2-3 right now, finally hitting the road for the first time.
Yeah, finally hitting the road for the first time. I know they had the 5-game home stretch for them over there in Jordan Hare. And this Auburn team, has been looking to find positives all throughout the season. And I'm the glass half full guy. So, you look at guys like Keandre Lambert has been very impressive. Would like to see more from Cam Coleman. Peyton Thorne is coming off of his best passing yard performance game this season, I think, outside of Alabama A&M, which I'm not going to count. But there's still some of those glaring holes that we see from a turnover perspective. Less turnovers, more impactful turnover this past game. For Georgia, like you said, played a great second half of football, played a horrible first half of football against Alabama. Net, you found out that you were, less than a touchdown away from being one of the best teams in the country. So this game is an opportunity for you to prove, where you are and where you stand and put a whole 4 quarters together if you're Georgia.
Yeah. And you mentioned it, slower starts, so far. I'm going to take out the Tennessee Tech game so that way we're only looking at Georgia's solid competition. Aside from that game, they have 16 first half points and 65 second half points. So, it's night and day what they've done when they figure out how to turn it on. We know Kirby Smart can make those adjustments, and he made them last week against Alabama. But in this game, they're going to need to start hot. Yeah. Carson Beck looked a little shaky back there. His receivers dropped a couple passes. They had that pass interference early. It didn't let him get in rhythm. This Auburn defense is good. We talk so much about the turnovers, and people talk so much about Peyton Thorne and the turnovers that they're not giving enough credit to what this Auburn defense has done to keep them in the games that they've lost. Right now, Keldrick Falk leads Power 4 football in quarterback pressures. And Carson Beck, Alabama didn't get to him often, but a guy like this who's hurrying up a quarterback who makes some of those mistakes and errant passes that led to 4 turnovers last week. Carson Beck's a great quarterback. I think he could finish the season up there in the Heisman race, but Auburn's defense is doing well at pressuring quarterbacks. So he's going to have to start early in the face of some of this in a game that, coming off of a loss is very, very important.
Coming off of a loss is very, very important. And, if what we've seen from Auburn, like you said, applying that pressure to quarterbacks, that's where Carson Beck has shown us that he is prone to interceptions or prone to turnovers. The real key for Auburn is if these turnovers are to happen is how do they capitalize on it? How do you get Jarquez Hunter more involved in the rushing game? We saw impressive performance from him last week, despite the loss. How do you get Cam Coleman more involved in the game? Keandre Lambert, I think he's sitting at 5 or 6 touchdowns in the season. We saw some opportunities from that Alabama game where outside of Malachi Starks, there is opportunities for offenses to get dynamic receivers like Keandre Lambert involved. We've seen Keandre Lambert, have a big 65-yard touchdown against Arkansas, have some of these bigger plays during the season. So getting him involved on the offensive side, pairing that with what we see on the pass rushing side for Auburn defensively to make some stops against Georgia could be the formula when it comes to disrupting and coming into this game with lower pressure if you're Auburn to potentially, steal a win here in Sanford Stadium.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I'm talking down on Georgia, but I think that they 100% have all the weapons and more to win this game. I want to see more out of the tight ends for them. They had a lot of opportunities in the Alabama game to hit those guys. We want to see that from them. For Auburn, they're struggling to get in the end zone a little bit here and there. Last game they had the turnover on downs there on the goal line. They missed the 2 field goals. So those are points that you don't want to leave. Throwing the pick 6, really the scoreboard says what it says. Auburn had every opportunity to win that game. Coming into this one, though, this Georgia team's going to be fired up. They're opting to pass a lot more than they are running. And, if you're Auburn, you want to limit the chances that Georgia has on the ball. You want to run the ball, use Jarquez Hunter. He's had some mistakes this year between him and Damari Alston. Give them opportunities to slow the game down, limit the opportunities that possession Georgia has. So that way, when you do get a 3 and out or you do get them to punt, it means something. They don't have as many drives in the game to score. Sounds simple, less times on the ball, they're going to score less, but you really want to kind of control the clock if you're Auburn in this game.
Yeah, you definitely want to control the clock, and I think for Georgia, that's been an area of opportunity as well, right? We saw a pretty decently hot start from Nate Frazier and Trevor Etienne in the first couple games of the season, but outside of some sporadic performances in Kentucky for Trevor Etienne, we haven't seen a ton on the ground for them, and that's kind of been the story for this offense throughout the season. And so this game, to me, seems like a good opportunity to kind of get them more involved, try to control the pace at home, and try to run this game out when Georgia is able to get a lead, ideally for them.
Yeah, I think they're second to last right now in the SEC. They're only ahead of Oklahoma by like less than a yard per game in running. So they haven't relied on it. They haven't necessarily needed to.
Right.
But I think this game, it would be helpful, especially if Auburn turns the ball over a couple times and you're controlling the pace of the game. Run it, get your guys involved, slow it down. You have injuries on your team, not at the skill player position, other than London Humphreys. But slow down the game, burn the clock, get out of there with a win. I think Georgia looks solid in this one. I think their key is just starting hot. You outskill their DBs with your receivers. Your running backs are very good. Force them to make some mistakes, and it's a 24-point spread. You're favored big. I like Georgia to win this one big, 16-31.
Ooh, okay. So they don't
Maybe
cover.
Not too big.
Yeah,
Maybe not too big.
Yeah. I think is it home cooking for Georgia? Are they cooking up some Tigers, or the Tigers eating the Bulldogs? I don't know. I think if it was a mascot challenge, I think a Tigers is more.
More threatening.
More threatening, but this is real players playing with the pads on the field, and so I like Georgia here. I think it's big. I don't think it's 23, 24 points big. I'm kind of where you are. I think ultimately 35-17 is kind of where I'm landing at. I think Auburn's able to get a touchdown or two, maybe one in the first, one in the third, field goal in the fourth. Georgia's not typically known for just blowing teams out, throughout the season. I feel like they're probably around that 30 to 40 point game average.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine they'll be at the 35 point mark. I would expect to see a turnover. That's not profound given what we've seen from Auburn, but I think that's kind of Georgia's game the last couple seasons, is getting a turnover or two, controlling the momentum from that, and the defense just suffocating them. Kirby's amazing at halftime adjustments. We saw it against Alabama. Not amazing enough to win, but amazing at making adjustments. And so I expect them to win this game 35-17.